It's a snowy Sunday afternoon. It's the 26th of January. It's the year 2014. I'm in Willowdale, a northern part of Toronto, and I'm sitting across from my friend Verne Edquist, who is a very distinguished piano tuner, technician, someone who services pianos. And we're talking to Verne a little bit about his life. And the first question I was going to ask him is, do you want me to call you a piano tuner or a piano technician?
Well, Peter, I don't technish the piano. I tune the piano. And you can tune other instruments as well. You tune bicycle wheels. There were people who were hired during the First World War to tune the piano wire struts on the biplanes. So it isn't just pianos that get tuned. And I guess that'll do for a start. Anyhow, I've been retired a number of years now. And so the piano business is sort of behind me, but I still get calls from tuners when they run into a bit of a problem and they want my opinion about something. So I guess you can say we're still in the business. It's still in my blood. So anyhow, thank
Verne,
you for that.
I'm somebody who loves pianos and has learned a lot in my lifetime from hanging out with piano tuners. And I own a couple of high-end instruments, and I hope they won't be my last pianos. And you never looked after one of my pianos because I met you after you were retired. But I knew your name before, and we'd see each other across the church sanctuary for many years at a small church called St. Ansgar Lutheran in Toronto. And I was always a little too shy to introduce myself, and maybe it worked both ways. And then one afternoon, about a decade ago, the two of us found ourselves at a book launch of a very important biography of Glenn Gould, this book by Kevin Bazana. I think I have it here. Wondrous Strange, The Life and Art of Glenn Gould. And I don't know why I was invited to this, but I went, and I saw you looking kind of shy and skulking around in the margins, and I thought, here's my chance to overcome my shyness and introduce myself. And we started shooting the breeze, and we felt as if we'd known each other before, and a friendship arose out of it. I don't know if you recall that day.
Yes, I do, Peter, and thank you very much. Yeah, there were quite a few people there, and as a matter of fact, the publisher, McClellan and Stewart, I'm trying to think of the man's name now, but
Doug Gibson or something?
Douglas Gibson, yes. Okay. And when I was telling him about a book that I produced called Center Walk, Memories of Students at the Ontario School for the Blind, he offered to buy a copy. So it was sort of, I didn't mean to do that, but it just happened. And
paid your car fare down there.
That's right. And so it was a good start, a good evening. And listen, thank you very much for that.
Well, this strange name Glenn Gould floats around in the ether when it comes to the name Verne Edquist.
I never used his name one bit when I was a freelance tuner when I met Glenn. No, I guess I wasn't. I was tuning pianos for Eaton's, who had the Steinway agency. Mm-hmm. And I got a call one day from the lady, Miss Musson, who looked after the concert artists, and I was told to go up to tune the piano that Glenn Gould had in his apartment.
You knew of this man already, for sure.
Oh, I saw him back in '55 when he came into Heinzman's.
Okay.
To look at a piano, and I was just standing watching. I wasn't introduced or anything, but he was he was an unusual individual. And anyhow, I got the streetcar, went up to St. Clair, and
to his home.
To his apartment at 110. That's right.
110 St. Clair West.
That's
All
right. And
to tune up a private instrument of his.
To tune a Chickering piano.
Oh, that famous Chickering from his childhood.
That's right.
Okay.
And
how was it?
It was a disaster.
Now, what do you mean by that?
Well, the piano, I guess, was okay at the cottage, but when it was moved to Toronto in the hot apartment, the wood shrank, and the tuning pins wouldn't hold pitch. And
had it been looked after or not?
Well, other tuners had been there.
Yeah.
And the strings that wouldn't stay in tune were all blocked off with pieces of felt. So there must have been 25, 30 strings that were in this condition.
Blocked off by earlier piano tuners.
That's right.
Who just gave up on the mess.
And I said, I'm not going to.
Right.
I took them all out and felt the tension of the pin.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not going to tune this piano. He said, you refuse to tune? I said, yes.
Because why, Verne? Why did you refuse?
Because the pins, it wouldn't stay in tune.
So
I said no to Glenn Gould.
So you were wasting your time, and you took your hat and you bid him good day.
So he offered to call a taxi, and I went into the boss at Eaton's, and I said, now, if my job depends on saying yes to this man, I want to know now, because I have my standards.
Okay.
And I was ready to leave if this was the case.
So you thought they might show you the door because you'd said no to the great man?
That's right.
Okay.
And I wasn't going to compromise my position.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyhow, he did what I suggested. We brought the piano in and had oversized pins put in.
Gould did what you suggested.
That's right.
I see. In other words, you're saying, Mr. Gould, we could deal with this, but this is a bigger operation than just tuning a piano.
And so he did, and he hired me after that to look after concerts for him.
And that commenced quite a close relationship with a pretty strange bird.
Yeah, over 20-odd years.
Okay. You were his chief man.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
And then when he started recording in Toronto at Eaton Auditorium, then I was on call all the time, or CBC. And there was a bit of a story when we did the Emperor Concerto. Michelangelini had backed out. Excuse me. Anyhow, this fellow had canceled, and Glenn phoned me at a customer's house, and there was about 24-hour notice. So I went down there, and there was this old...
So Michelangelo, that famous pianist who canceled a lot, didn't show up?
Well, he was there, but he was so upset, he quit in the middle of it.
Wow. So suddenly they think... well, we've got one difficult guy. Let's go to another one. So let's call Gould.
That's right.
All right.
And so we had this old, CBC had this old dog of a Steinway, which held its pitch despite the hot lights.
Okay.
And anyhow, we had a rehearsal. And during the rehearsal, a couple of dampers jumped out. And I had to take the piano apart and fix it. And then...
While the symphony guys are all there?
That's right. Everybody's waiting. I had 15 minutes to do it. And so during rehearsal, this happened. Then there was a supper break. And Glenn said, well, tune the piano, watch my chair. And...
What did he mean, watch my chair?
Well, he didn't want people touching his chair.
Why would they touch his chair?
I don't know, but people tried to, and I had to tell them to get off.
Oh, geez.
You know,
so he was that famous then that people worshipped him?
Yep, and they were trying to tear bits of leather off his chair.
The symphony musicians?
Yes.
Are they that nuts?
Yeah, well,
Wow.
it's the truth.
Okay.
And so
So you're fighting them off with your Saskatchewan
that's right.
Dukes?
That's right.
All right.
You know, and now in the meantime, I'm working straight through.
Yeah.
And
Where's
then
Gould?
when Gould, he's having a snooze or having something to eat, I guess.
Okay.
But when he came back, he brought out an abbreviated score of music, and he was thumbing through that like a big little book. And I said, do you have photographic memory? He said, no, patterns in my mind.
In other words, excuse me, instead of a big score, he's just using the miniature
That's
version.
right. He was going
That's all
through-
he needs.
That's all he needs.
Okay.
And so we went through it, and we, as they say, it was in the can. Mm-hmm. And an elderly violinist came up to me and shook my hand and said, I'm so appreciative of your tuning and the way it stayed in tune. And that made it all worthwhile because I worked 14 hours straight without any supper or any food or anything. And that was the Emperor Concerto.
Did Glenn Gould ever express kind thoughts in your direction?
Not that much, no.
But did he treat you decently fundamentally? Was he a gentleman?
No, he was okay. He was very subtle.
Okay. Subtle meaning what?
You know, you might as well agree with him because
Okay.
he was going to get his way anyhow. So,
Okay.
and a couple of times he'd have trouble with the 318. Well, and he
Okay.
said, try that action out of that concert grand. I said, Glenn, it won't work. It will not work.
Meaning switch the action?
Yes. So,
Oh, okay.
okay, I said, Glenn, I'll do it, but I know it won't work. Well, just try. Okay, I did it. Well, it didn't work. But you knew
Now, what do you mean it wouldn't work?
well, the parts wouldn't line up.
Why is that? Aren't the
Because
Steinways?
every piano's a little different.
Okay.
A 64th of an inch
Yeah.
at number 88 note it's as good as a mile. I mean,
Yeah, I see. Okay.
It's that
So
precise.
Gould didn't know that. He naively thought they were interchangeable.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
right. Well,
And you showed him wrong.
Yeah, and so there would be times when he could be like in the sessions and all that would go all night. He would. I'd be, I don't know, trying to wake up. I'd be doing push-ups in the studio. He came in the room. Don't do that.
Why?
And he said, I don't like it. Why? I don't know. I quit.
You did quit.
Yeah.
Wow.
But he was okay. He wasn't mean. There was one time when Lily was in the hospital.
Your wife?
Lily, yeah, my wife. Mm-hmm. And he canceled the session so I could do it another time.
Okay.
So he did have a soft spot.
He wasn't an ogre.
No, not like some I could name. Yes.
Or not name them.
Yeah, not name.
Okay.
I won't name.
All right.
But no. But
Were you aware that this man was, if we can throw that word around, a genius?
How will I word this? He was a mystery wrapped in an enigma.
All right.
He was hard to figure out why he would do certain things, and he was totally self-absorbed.
Okay. And you probably didn't probe his personal life.
I didn't. No, I kept away. I didn't ask any questions.
Okay.
I kept it as a professional basis. I never felt I was a friend or anything. I was no better than the last job. Mm-hmm. That's my approach.
Right.
Because I had tuned for Victor Borge and Rubinstein and Emil Galels and
Rudolf Serkin?
and Carmen Caballero.
Gina Bachauer?
Gina Bachauer, yes.
Yeah?
Yes, she had biceps like a wrestler. And you were the one that said, I want that note fixed. I said, oh, okay, well, bit of tone regulation. You have 15 minutes. And I did it, and I think her husband was more afraid of her than I was. But Gina Bachauer, yes, yeah, interesting.
I'm trying to think of names of that era. Okay.
Yeah, and so Glenn was just part of the scene, but
right.
I never, and he had a sense of humor.
Okay.
Now, he was going out west to film The Duke of Boers, and over the talk back, he said, "Verne, do you know any Western humor?" And I thought for a moment.
He knew you were from the prairies.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
And I said over the talk back, Alice Chalmers called him John Deere to attract her.
He probably didn't get it, did he?
He did. He understood that,
okay.
yes. Because Alice Chalmers...
You want to translate that whole thing for the rest of us?
Alice Chalmers is the name of a tractor.
Okay.
Farm machinery.
All right.
Alice Chalmers called him John Deere to attract her. Tractor. And you see, that's... Or, you know, throw the cow over the fence some hay. The language and humor, you see, is different out there than here. And so he laughed and thought that was quite amusing. So he did have and he was aware of things, you know, he played the stock market.
Right.
And...
but he was sort of a coddled kid, which was radically different than your youth.
Oh,
right?
yes. No, when Glenn was growing up, he was from upper middle class. His father was a furrier, had a store, had a shop at the King Eddie Hotel.
You knew the father a little bit?
A little bit, and I had a customer, and I told Glenn this, that had done business with Bert Gould, and he said he was an honest retailer. They had a good reputation. But when Glenn was maybe 7 years old, he'd be living in the city where you had all the conveniences. Compared to when I was 7 years old, I lived in a 2-room house with 2 windows and a door and a stove, and no conveniences.
This is northern Saskatchewan?
In north central Saskatchewan, that's right.
What's the nearest place I might have heard of?
Oh, Prince Albert.
Okay.
Well, there's a smaller...
How far is Prince Albert?
About 60 miles west of where I grew up.
All right. This is farm country?
Yes.
What kind of farming?
General farming. Now it's mostly wheat. In those days it was mixed farming.
Okay. Animals,
chickens. And I milked cows and watered horses, and so he had a different life than I did.
Right.
And so I guess we drank unpasteurized milk and rainwater and brought in snow in the wintertime to melt for drinking water or whatever. And we had the little house in the backyard with a half moon on the door, or whatever you want to say. And
now your mom was sort of a tenant farmer, or how do we describe this story?
After we lost the farm.
Your parents were immigrants from Sweden.
Yes, in Sweden.
Did they meet in this country?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And your dad was quite a bit older than your mother?
No, but a little bit older, not much. But
okay.
See, my dad was my mother's second husband, so
I see. Okay.
That's going back a long way.
Okay.
And
he was ultimately deported from this country.
That's right. Yeah.
So he wasn't really part of your youth?
No, not really. And so when I was 7 or 8 years old, my uncle Jelmer wrote to the government about my vision, and a person was sent from Regina to talk to me and set the wheels in motion for me to attend the Ontario School for the Blind in Brantford, Ontario.
What was your vision story? Why do we put you in the blind camp here, Verne?
Well, I had a,
You're wearing glasses.
I had a,
You're not holding a tin cup.
not yet. I had a cataract operation when I was 7 years old.
Wow.
That means one of the lenses was clouded, so
Okay.
the lady who wrote the book Romance on Three Legs explained it very well. Your cataract, the lens is broken up and drawn out through a needle, with a needle, and then you're given thick glasses that look like this. And so my glasses came in the mail.
It was just one eye that was bad?
No, both eyes.
But cataract in one?
Cataracts in both eyes.
Both. But why does this happen?
Who knows?
Okay.
I was born that way.
I see. Were other people in your family? Did they have something?
No, I don't know.
Okay. Did you know as a little kid that your vision was compromised?
Oh, I was told, and there were certain things that, I couldn't see, but you learn to hear.
Right.
And so I had the operation and got my glasses, which allowed me to see shapes at a distance much clearer.
Okay.
And that was quite a day when I got those glasses.
Yeah.
And so, getting back to the man from the government,
Right.
he came with a lot of instructions. I had to have blood work done and all this stuff, and so come September in 1939, I was mailed a long ticket. In those days, a ticket.
A train ticket.
Train ticket. Had a division ticket. So it was quite long, and then my cousins set me on a chair and told me what to call the back house.
Hold on. You're getting ahead here. In other words, this was arranged that you would come across Canada to Ontario to this school for the blind.
That's right.
In Brantford.
That's right.
And people would come from all over to attend this place.
Well, they came from Alberta, Saskatchewan. Manitoba had its own school.
Okay.
And from Ontario, and the odd one from Quebec.
I see. And you weren't given a choice about this.
No.
Okay, but it was okay for you as sort of an adventure, or
well,
I mean, it's tearing you away from your family. That's hard, isn't it?
No, one of my uncles said you won't learn any Swedish down there. But
he was right.
But it was a godsend for me.
But were you afraid?
Not really. I was more curious than.
What about your mother? It must have torn her apart.
She had a hard time with it. She couldn't even say goodbye.
Did she have older children?
Yes, my older brother and sister.
Okay.
They, like Johnny, whose picture's up there on the. He went in the army when he was 17.
Okay.
And my sister was. She was 6 years older than Johnny, so.
Okay.
But she mortgaged her future to buy clothes for me to go to Brantford.
Wow.
Because there was no money. People don't realize there was.
You were poor, is that right?
That's right. But we weren't the only ones that were poor.
Right.
There was a shoemaker in town in the Depression.
Yeah.
Handmade pair of boots for $2.50. And he couldn't sell them.
Wow.
So.
Okay.
But there was no money, but going to Brantford was a godsend.
Who was going to pay for this? The government?
The Saskatchewan government.
I see.
paid the Ontario government.
Okay.
$500 a year for my room and board and education.
Okay.
And the school was run directly from the Ontario government.
You didn't have to pay this back?
No.
Okay. It was sort of a scholarship.
Well, I guess you could say that.
Or a health agreement or something.
But it was an agreement with the provinces.
Okay.
And And it was another world coming there because I had never seen paved roads or electric lights to any degree, and there was about 220 pupils at the school, from small to 18, 20-year-olds.
Okay.
So
was it like a barracks that you would sleep in?
yeah, it was a 4 to 5 to a room,
Okay.
and there was the girls' side and the boys' side.
In one building?
No, two. There were 3 big buildings: the main school,
Okay.
the girls' dormitory, and the boys' dormitory.
Uh-huh.
And you started off the little kids in room 11, and you had house mothers. But every morning, the day you woke up at 6:30, you were expected to get yourself washed.
Did they play reveille?
Oh, well, everything was bells.
Bells, I see. Okay.
And
Electric bells or real bells?
oh yeah, real loud bells.
Okay.
Anyhow, and
Was
then
that kind of
there was a
fun?
male. Pardon?
Was that kind of fun? Or was it
No,
military?
it was a military, run like an army camp.
But you didn't mind that?
No,
Okay.
and the thing is, you get used to it, and you develop competition.
Okay.
It's good for you.
Did you wear uniforms?
No, but you had to wear a tie.
Really?
Yeah.
Had you ever worn a tie?
Never. I didn't.
Who taught you how to tie it?
Well, it was an already made string tie.
Oh, I
you
see.
know.
Okay.
But you learned that as you got older, you know. But let me say this: that okay, so you got up at 6:30, you got yourself ready, made your bed,
Okay.
got over to the main building, and you lined up to go into the dining room. The younger ones at the beginning of the line, and the senior, no talking, absolute silence.
Okay.
And then you lined up to go in the dining room.
Would you be snickering or telling jokes under your breath?
No, you'd
get in trouble?
You'd get in trouble.
Okay.
And then you filed into the same place every day at your table,
Okay.
and you'd be taking a totally blind person. And,
Oh, I forget. These are.
And he would, like this
But you
fellow.
weren't totally blind. Were there sort of 2 groups in the school?
Well, there
Or
were everybody. There was a varying degrees of vision. Some people who could see a little bit. Some people couldn't see at all.
Okay.
And so anyhow, we'd have our breakfast from 7:30 to 8. Then you were sent outside,
Okay.
rain, shine, 40 below, and you'd play. You made up your own games.
I see.
Now here's a game called sidewalk tag. Now this is a you see, children made up the games. They didn't have university degrees, but they made up their own.
All right.
And so a specific length of sidewalk would be measured. One guy would be chosen to stand in the middle, and you were told, you ran across. Well, he would try and grab somebody. Okay, so
Okay.
he would be on the sidewalk with it. So it eventually come to a point where there was one guy trying to get across without being touched. Well, you say, what good is that? You know what good it is? It gives that totally blind kid space
sense. Of
sense.
spatial. Okay.
And we had kids could clap their hands and they'd go through that door without touching it. They could hear the sound, the echo.
I
It had
see.
such good space sense. So anyhow, as you got older, your responsibilities increased, and so did the hijinks. You know what a French bed is, don't you?
Is that when you short the sheets?
That's right. There was always somebody doing that.
Okay.
And we had to make our beds every Tuesday, change the laundry.
Yeah.
So we'd have to go and line up with these big baskets of laundry, the sheets, and take it over to the boys' dormitory and make your bed and take the old ones back.
Now the
and
teachers, were they sighted people?
some were visually impaired, and some were mostly were sighted.
Okay.
There was a lady who taught sewing and knitting to the girls. She had visual troubles, and our shop teacher had visual troubles, and he had an operation and got most of his sight back, which was good, but he was very good. And speaking of shop, we made a birdhouse for Jack Miner,
Who's
the guy
Jack
who
Miner?
had the big bird sanctuary down Point Pelee.
Okay.
And it was a colony for the purple martin.
Uh-huh.
And we used to cane chairs for private citizens to make money for the boys club.
Were the students at this school all helped into different trades and crafts and means of earning a living?
You were making baskets, and there was even shoemaking.
Okay.
And
But this wasn't just to be nice to poor little blind kids,
No,
right?
no, no,
I mean, this was
was-
a really committed operation.
that's right. And piano tuning was taught.
Okay.
And when I was in grade 8 or grade 7, I guess I started to learn how to tune pianos. And
Okay.
our tuning teacher, he used to bring auto harps for us to tune
Okay.
from the factory, and we formed a company. And,
What factory?
well, the factory made auto harps, Sterling Action and Key,
Where?
in Brantford.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Huh.
And you know what an auto harp is.
Yeah, but I never see them anymore. Were
No,
they a
you-
big deal back then?
Well, people seem to like them, yeah.
Okay.
And a little sidebar to that, Ian and Sylvia, she came to Eaton's one day, and she was desperate to find somebody that could tune that auto harp. And
Can't you tune them yourself?
so
I
I
guess she couldn't.
no.
Okay.
So I tuned it for her,
Okay.
and the woman in the office said, "How much should we charge?" I said, "Look, I did it on my noon hour. It was a bit of a fun thing," and she was so happy that I was able to do it. So it came in handy.
So you didn't charge her for that?
No.
That's very nice.
But so
There was a musical component to this school? Was there a
oh
chorus
yes,
or something?
we had a
Or operetta or something?
We had opera. We did HMS Pinafore. and-
Okay. Were you in that?
Oh yeah.
What role did you play?
Oh, I was just a
A sailor?
understudy to the which one it was? The
I don't know.
Carpenters, I guess.
Okay.
You know, but that comes back to me every once in a while.
Was there a band or an orchestra?
Oh yeah, we had a full symphony orchestra.
Wow.
Yeah, so music was a big part of.
Okay.
We had a pipe organ.
Okay.
The first pipe organ at the school was powered by water.
Wow.
Water wheel powered the bellows. You know, so it.
So you drifted into piano tuning thanks to this school.
That's right. And when I was older, things weren't working out, so I thought, yeah, I better smarten up and really get busy and learn how to tune pianos more quickly, so I can get a job in a factory. And that's how it started.
How many years did you go to this school? You got there when you were about 10?
Yeah, I got there when I was 8, going on 9, and I was roughly there 10 years.
Okay. And was this year round or in the summers you
Oh, in the summer I went back out west.
you went back to the farms of Saskatchewan?
That's right.
And what'd you do out
Oh,
there?
on the farm, there's always something to do for any child.
Yeah.
But eventually you get old enough to milk cows and help out in the haying and
Okay.
harvesting and chopping down a few trees.
What was it like to be back among your family?
Well, when you were very little, I don't know what they're thinking, but they'd say, "Well, don't you know who I am?"
Oh yeah.
And it's sort of annoying, you know. I'm not the only one that said that, but so eventually, you know, I was sort of glad to get back to school, and
Okay.
because
Every fall you'd get back on that train
yep, and
see all your friends.
see the friends, and somebody would say, "Oh, you go to the blind school, do you?" I never knew the school was blind.
Somebody would say that where? On the
Out
train?
west, out west.
Oh, okay. They'd heard of it.
Yeah. Oh well. Yeah.
All right.
And you know, as we were teenagers, we were going back to Brantford one time, and these girls said, well, where do you fellas go to school? Well, a friend of mine, Tom, he was a little quicker than I was. He said, we go to Osby College. And you know what that is, OSB.
Ontario School, what is it?
The Ontario School for the Blind, OSB.
Right, the Osby.
So he says Osby College. No, we didn't want to be any different than anybody else, of course.
Right.
When you're a teenager.
Yes.
And one of our children said, you guys didn't look blind. We were, you know, some pictures of us.
Right.
We didn't, a lot of the guys, they'd hardly carry a cane.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they roller skated. And I had a friend who wore out a white cane roller skating, dragging it along the edge of the sidewalk. But we skated and played hockey with a metal puck with ball bearings inside of it. And every once in a while, a blind man's fog would occur when a train came roaring down from I'm trying to think of the name, from London, and the train would go by, nobody could hear the puck. So we'd have to quit till the train stopped.
I see, interesting. So the bearings were on there to give sound.
That's right, ball bearing, you know.
I'm slow here,
a metal puck with ball bearing.
I see.
We painted it black, and we didn't have a lot of pads and stuff to worry about.
Right.
But no, we built our own skating rink.
Verne, many, many years later, I don't have a copy of it handy, you assembled a book of interviews, oral history of people who'd gone to that school.
That's right.
And who had been profoundly changed by that school. That it was a great force in your life, was it not?
That's right. And you know, a lot of people, a member of Parliament graduated, C.W. Raymond, and
in Ottawa, a member of Parliament?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
from Ontario?
From Ontario here.
Okay.
A member from Brantford, and a lot of people have, John Green, who wrote the insurance policy for the province of Saskatchewan, came from the school, and we've had a lot of good graduates.
You stayed in touch with some of them?
Well, in the book, and you try to hear about them with our alumni association.
Okay.
And so...
But at about 16, you were ready to hit the pavement in Toronto and earn a living.
A little older than that, but I'm going to tell you a story about a graduate. I'm trying to think of his name now. He ran a newspaper in Arthur. He was totally blind.
Okay.
And I'm sorry.
A Braille newspaper?
No. He ran it.
A normal newspaper?
That's right.
You're not supposed to say normal, probably, but I just did.
No, he had people reading it to him, of course.
I see.
And the farmers were so convinced that he could read money. Well, and he'd pull a dollar bill out of this pocket and a $2 bill out of that one, and
what do you mean he could read money?
Well, the farmers thought he could read it. Of course, he didn't read it.
Right.
But he had it in folded differently or in different pockets, so the denominations would be separate.
Right. I see. Okay.
And he built up such a mystique.
Huh.
And because of this person, a principal was hired that really brought us into the 20th century, because originally it was under the Department of Jails and Asylums.
Wow,
school.
okay.
Yeah. And
does this school still exist?
Oh yes, but it's changed now because a lot of people didn't. They integrated blind people into sighted schools.
Okay.
And now they have blind deaf, and it's changed. When I was there,
were there deaf children there when you were there?
No.
I see. That was a different community.
It was a different thing. Now, when I was there, the maids, the staff, they all lived there, and it was like a big family when I didn't get home at Christmas time. You know, everybody was, you knew everybody.
Right.
And now here's the thing. You talk about bells, but when the fire alarm went off in the middle of the day, we'll say teachers plus students plus staff, maybe 300 of us, would empty that school under 3 minutes. No talking, absolute silence. Under 3 minutes, we emptied that school.
It was made of wood?
Yep. And at night, maybe 4:30 in the morning, the fire alarm would go off in the dormitory. So you had orders to take a friend and get down to the fire doors. So you never knew when these things were going to happen. So you learned to be adaptable.
These were tests, you mean?
Well, tests, but they were to keep you aware of the
Right.
fire alarm. Now, another thing that we did, some of us that could see, well, there's some totally blind too. We'd get back to school and we brought in our own, it was a farm, 160 acres, so we grew our own root crops. And some of us would be hired to go and pick potatoes for the farmer, 50 cents a day. And the farmer that was looking after things was a veteran of the First World War. Well, you know, we were young and punk and silly, and we'd throw potatoes at him, and he'd show us what hand-to-hand combat was in the trenches.
You'd try to hit him with potatoes?
Yeah, well,
He liked that?
the odd time, you know, but then
He didn't get angry?
he'd throw us over his shoulder like he would do in the
see.
trenches, you know.
I see.
But so it was good to get out of the classroom
Right.
and pick potatoes, and we brought in 1,000 bags of potatoes one year.
Wow.
You know, so it wasn't just the classroom academics.